Yesterday, the federal government unveiled $82 billion in funding to stabilize the economy and help businesses and workers. That's the big picture. But what should each of us do as the fallout hits paychecks and has already walloped retirement savings invested in the stock market? Here to help with that, in Toronto via Skype, Rona Birnbaum. She is a financial planner and the founder of Caring for Clients. And Kathleen Daunt, who gives financial advice with the New School of Finance. And we are delighted to welcome both of you to our program tonight. I want to start, maybe Kathleen, you could put the week that was on the markets into some kind of historical perspective. How bad was it?
Well, historically, the last one that we have to go on is 2008. For a lot of young investors, they weren't invested during that time. All they've seen is a market that was gains every day. So I think this is a time to really look at what your true risk tolerance is. We're seeing that for the first time for young people.
We'll get a little more information on young people investing as we continue our conversation. But Rona, maybe you could follow up with this. Really give us the sort of stock market 101 answer to this. For people who aren't aware, how does what the market does affect everybody's personal investments?
Oh, well, to the degree that the behavior of the market creates uncertainty and fear, that will often lead to decisions to sell investments. And as you know, if there are way more sellers than there are buyers, you see a collapse in prices. And so even the everyday investor who has a long-term view is still going to see the value of their portfolios decline significantly, depending on how much equity exposure they have. So, whether you're a long-term investor or whether you are hoping for a quick return, everybody across the country is feeling the pain of what's been happening in the stock market this year. And it's very likely that more pain will come because this first leg down on the market has more to do with, this immediate concern that is shutting down the economy. And, if it lasts longer than anybody would expect at this point, then the ripple effect of the loss of jobs is going to create, a kind of a vacuum in profitability that could take the market a little bit lower. But in every difficult situation, Steve, there is always a silver lining if you can just look past the immediate concerns today.
Well, I don't want to fun and Dick and Jane this thing too much, but it's amazing how many times, Kathleen, I hear people say, well, I don't really buy and sell stocks, so the market doesn't affect me. And I say to them, well, have you got a mutual fund? Well, yeah, I do. Well, then, hello. We do have to remind people of that, right?
Yes, that's true. But if they're thinking that way, then they're thinking, okay, if I'm not looking at my investment, then maybe this is a great time. It's a set and forget kind of attitude towards investing, a very passive approach that will help to get through this time of uncertainty.
Okay. Rona, I know a great deal of fuss was made in the business pages about the fact that interest rates set by the Bank of Canada are basically at nil right now. I think it's less than 1%. But in terms of what that impact is on individuals, what can you tell us on that front?
Well, it depends on whether you're a borrower or whether you're an investor in conservative fixed income investors. So the borrower is getting a reprieve, lower interest rates, and in many cases, in terms of mortgages, a deferral of when they have to pay. So they have the opportunity now to actually, if they have a mortgage, lock into low long-term rates. And actually, if they're in the position to pay down their debt, they're going to make progress on it much, much faster, when rates are this low. For the GIC investor or bond investor, which are more like, more our retirees in this country, it has just made a difficult situation even worse because, if rates are as low as they are, you can maybe get 1% on your money. It's very hard if you're living on a fixed income to live on that dramatically reduced income. So I think both, anybody who's in stocks is suffering, and anyone actually is in fixed income is feeling pain as well. So I think it comes back to helping people understand what is within their control. right? And what should they be doing?
Okay, let's pick up on that. That's a great point. Kathleen, if you are advising people right now what they should be doing in terms of their own personal finances to weather this storm, what's the best advice, Kathleen, coming out of the gate right now?
So I think what everyone needs to do is basically do a financial assessment of what money is coming in and what money is coming out. So once you know if you have enough money to support all of your expenses, or if you don't, then you know, okay, this is the magic number I need to make up with my emergency savings. Hopefully that's in cash and you can take those uninvested savings first. But if we have to sell some of your investments, then you don't want to sell too much at this time. You want to know the number that you need and take as needed.
Right. So, Rona, let's just sort of follow up on the announcement that the Prime Minister made yesterday, where, he's trying to put some kind of financial backstop in place for people who have, relatively precarious incomes. Maybe they work in a cinema, maybe they work in a restaurant or a bar, and all those things are closed now, and many of them are therefore not getting any money. What would you suggest that they do right now in light of the announcement made by the PM yesterday and otherwise?
Well, it's going to take some time for those benefits to come through. So the first thing to do is to reduce or eliminate any absolutely unnecessary spending. Consider what your support environment looks like. So it might be time to turn to your family, for example. So you might have a family circle where there are individuals that are much more immune to what's happening than they are. And there's no shame in asking for help to get through this time. The government's pitching in. I think communities are pitching in. I'm starting to see some GoFundMe campaigns. We've got employers that are pitching in. So it's really time to ask for help from your community and from our broader society, because I really truly believe that those that are in a position to help will help. They just need to know how.
One of the things I've heard from wait staff, for example, Kathleen, is that they might make as much as 80% of their annual income in tips. And of course, that's not going to necessarily be reflected in whatever application you make to the federal government. You can't prove, what tips you're going to get. Does the backstopping that the government has imagined, does that include taking that into account?
Probably not. And this is why it's so important for people that are also self-employed to start keeping track of lost revenue. This is the time to, hold on to those emails that show cancellations of future appointments so that you can track this and then have something to prove once the EI applications start getting written. I think for those people that are working with tips, it's a question of looking for extra cash. Often if you're in that wage gap, you're maybe looking for a CRA return at this time. Maybe now you should be doing the application online and set up that direct deposit so that you can get that money sooner. We might need it in the coming weeks.
Well, that's the thing, Rona. If you filled out your taxes, exactly according to Hoyle and did it very honestly and indicated that maybe you make $30,000 a year in salary, but maybe you make another $20,000 a year in tips. If you included all of that on your tax returns, you should be okay, shouldn't you?
Well, it really depends on what your cost of living is. And I think that most of us kind of live day to day, until now anyway, assuming that the next week and the next year will be the same. And so, the income that's coming in, there isn't the urgency to set money aside, for the future. And, the other thing is that anybody that has been receiving income that hasn't been reported on their tax return, frankly, the tax is not paid, really should be something that you could be setting aside for the future. So, but it's water under the bridge at this point. And so we're at the point now that we actually just have to think about what are the individual things that each person can do to get through this time frame, which it might be 2 months, might be 3 months, might be 6 months, could be longer. So I really think it's if somebody's in that industry that is going to have a hard time getting a job until this is all blown over, you got to start looking at more extreme measures, which could be things like, okay, if you live and you rent an apartment on your own, bring in somebody to share the space with you. Maybe it's time to, if you're a young adult, maybe it's time to go back home for a little while and save money that way. So it really, if you're not in a strong financial position, I think you have to start looking at the more dramatic moves that are going to, position you well, so you're not building up a ton of debt. And by the time that this flows through, you're spending more time paying off the debt as opposed to building wealth. That,
Rona, though, is dramatic advice, which leads me to believe that, that's not the advice you give somebody when they've just got to hunker down for, a week or a month. That's the advice you give somebody when this may be your life for the next year. Is that the time frame you're giving people right now?
Well, it really depends on the individual. I think those that are most financially vulnerable, and like I said, these are people in the travel industry and the restaurant industry, any industry that is going to be really constrained for a reasonable period of time. And if those individuals are in a weak financial position, they really, I think, have to at least consider the possibility that their ability to earn an income is going to be constrained for a reasonable period of time. Because even if they get back to work 3 months from now, I don't think the demand is going to be as high as it was previously. People have been shell shocked. They're not all going to necessarily flow back into the restaurants. They're developing some new patterns of behavior. They're opening, they're ordering food in, they're cooking more at home. And, the longer this goes on, the more those patterns get ingrained. So I just think it's a prudent thing to start thinking about what would be a more helpful longer term position. And all of these things, I believe, are quite temporary. But I just hate the idea of somebody building up debt over the next 3 to 4 months, because then they just got to climb out of it thereafter. Now, of course, they've got to deal with the fact that they have leases and contracts and so on, and they've got to negotiate and work with these situations. But I don't think anything's off the table at this time. I don't want you to think that I'm very, very negative about this. I've always been very, very kind of pragmatic. And I think that when anybody's making financial decisions, investment, income or otherwise, they should be looking at what is my best case scenario, what is my worst case scenario, what is the most probable, and then make decisions relative to the most probable, and maybe siding a little bit on what could be the worst that could happen.
Right,
because
on the conservative
if the
side.
Worst,
that makes sense.
Yeah, if the worst doesn't happen, you're better off.
Right, okay. Well, Kathleen, the federal government says that they are making this very, very easy for people to qualify for employment insurance right now. Attestations that you might have needed in the past are not going to be there right now. Can you help us understand who qualifies, and maybe more importantly, who would not qualify for applying for employment insurance and maybe the special top-ups as well?
So in terms of Trudeau's economic relief plan, there's basically two benefits. There's the care benefit and the support benefit. The care benefit is for those that are caring for individuals who can't work because of illness, but also for those who have children that have to care for them now because of the school closures. Then you have the support benefit, which is for those that wouldn't normally qualify for employment insurance. So those that are self-employed, for example. We don't know yet how the application process is going to go. And so that's why I think it's important to start keeping records now.
What about, and let me do a follow-up with you on this, Kathleen, what if you own a restaurant or a bar or, a small business and nobody's showing up now? What are your options in that case?
So now we have, there's also the small business subsidy for wages. That's the 10% that they're doing, up to a maximum of $13.75 per employee. It's not a lot, but it's something.
Yeah, what does it work out to? 10% of the wages or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah, not too much. Okay, when you talked earlier about an emergency fund, as a general rule of thumb, Rona, let me go to you on this. As a general rule of thumb, how much should be in people's emergency fund?
Anywhere from 3 to 6 months of their cash flow needs. And the range has to do with how potentially vulnerable their job is and how, how much savings they have in long-term investments. So it doesn't make sense for somebody to constantly have 6 months of their cash flow needs sitting, not earning a lot of money for 20 or 30 years if they're not likely to experience job loss. So it's a bit of a spectrum, but generally 3 to 6 months is appropriate.
Well, here's the follow-up, which is, I think we all saw a survey not too long ago which showed that in the United States anyway, don't know if it's the case in Canada, but in the US, half the population is a sort of surprise $300 bill away from being destitute. Like they haven't got $300 in the bank to take care of something that might come up at the very last second. In which case, how is it possible to put away for an emergency fund like this, or are people just not saving properly?
Well, I think, in certain parts of the country, a lot of people aren't saving just because their level of income isn't enough to cover much more than the basics. We've talked about housing before on your show, Steve, and how much money goes to real estate or rent or whatever the case may be. So it doesn't necessarily leave a whole lot of discretionary spending. So you can only reduce your expenses to a certain level, and I think everybody understands now that they're not going to be buying the frivolous things.
Right. In
for
which
the next
case, so
little
what do you
while.
do? What do you do to get that emergency fund in place?
What you do is you do some of the more creative things that I'm talking about. It may be necessary to pull savings out of your long-term plans. And you know what I have to say, it's always been considered a shameful thing to withdraw from your RSP. But if you're going to withdraw, this is probably the year to do it for some of these people, because if you have very little income, when you pull the money out of your RSP, you're going to pay very little tax. And if you're, say, younger than 35 or even younger than 40, withdrawing some money from your RSP to deal with this crisis is a prudent thing to do to position yourself so that you could then build it back up over time. So, but if you don't have any savings, that's when you have to start, as I said. You're looking to the government, you're looking to your community, and you're looking to be a little bit more creative about how to spend less while you've got a constrained income situation.
Kathleen, I want to ask you about millennials, because as we know, there are many millennials who would like to have been able to purchase a home in one of the bigger cities of this province, say Toronto, Ottawa, wherever, and they can't do it. They just don't have the money to do it. And they've received the advice, the financial advice over the years, that they can still do as well as somebody who perhaps was able to get into the housing market, but they really have to sort of double down on other investments instead in order to do as well. For them, this may very well be their first stock market crash. They might not have been old enough to really have experienced it back in the days of the Great Recession of 2008. So, with that cohort in mind, what's the advice, Kathleen?
Yes. So for those first-time investors that are they're for the first time seeing their investments drop, I think it's important to really think about that time horizon for the investments. If they have the luxury and the privilege to have enough money to support themselves right now and can stay invested, then this is the perfect time where they have to stick to their guns and not change their asset mix, stick to their original plan, and wait out this pandemic and this recession, and see the gains that will come eventually in 3 to 5 years when the returns are there.
Patience.
Yes.
Rona, one is often told that you should have half your money sort of in bonds and half your money in the stock market and make sure everything is very balanced if you're the basic average investor. Do you change that advice at this particular time?
No, but we are recommending some changes at the margin. So for our retirees that are in balanced portfolios, their withdrawals that they're making systematically every month, we are shifting from taking from both sides of the asset mix and we're focusing on drawing on the fixed income portion of their portfolio for the foreseeable future. And part of the reason for that bond allocation is to ensure that, one, they don't see their portfolio decline so dramatically that they lose faith in equities, but also we want to make sure that they could live on the fixed income component of their portfolio for 5 to 8 or 9 years before having to even look at the equities. And I think that we're starting to get close to a point where I'm going to be more comfortable rebalancing portfolios. So this would be for your pre-retiree. If somebody had a 50-50 mix and the drop in the equities now means that they have 60% fixed income and 40% equity, I think it's getting interesting to consider rebalancing. I'd probably want to do that maybe another 10 or 15% lower in the stock market. But I think those investors who do that now and continue investing to their strategic asset mix through this time period will be amply rewarded over time. One thing I just want to say, we know that there are going to be companies that go bankrupt. We know that there are going to be employees that lose their jobs. But when we get through this cycle, the companies that survive will be stronger and will have more dominant market positions than they do now. The weaker will be taken over by the stronger companies, and therefore those companies will have much better profitability. And when they get back to hiring, because they're going to be very successful growing companies, then you're going to get the employment picking up on the end. So it's a cycle, but at the end of the cycle, I think companies are going to be stronger, and I think that individuals are going to be looking at how they manage their money very differently than they did before. They'll be taking it a hell of a lot more seriously.
Well, Kathleen, let me ask you about that then. In terms of debt, we are known in Canada to be carrying some of the highest personal debt levels around. How should someone deal with debt in these very uncertain times?
I mean, as I said earlier, if you have the luxury and privilege to be able to continue to pay the scheduled amounts that you would normally be paying, then that's amazing. But if not, I think it's important to contact your bank immediately and try and work with them, because they've put these things in place now. They're trying to work on a case-by-case basis with people to come to a solution, because this is unprecedented times.
And Kathleen, if you're somebody who wants to buy a house right now, given how cheap money is to borrow, do you change your plans at all? Is still full speed ahead? What do you do?
Well, signing on for a 6-figure loan is not going to be, paid off in 3 years. So the rates will come back eventually. So I think it's still important to stick to what your original plan is in terms of purchasing. If you can afford to do so, then that's great. But if you can't, this is maybe not the right decision.
Well, Rona, can I get you on that? Is this too precarious a time in which to lay out such an expenditure, the biggest one probably you'll ever have in your life?
It depends entirely on one's income stability. If there's somebody that's working in an organization where they are an essential service, where their income is going to continue through this piece, what could be the case is there could be a bit of a pullback in the price of housing, and it could represent a buying opportunity for some of those people. But the key is their income stability. So anybody that could be potentially at risk of losing their job, or people who are very dependent on the bonus, the variable bonus that they get every year, which probably won't come in this year and may be constrained for the next year. Don't base your commitments financially based on a variable part of your compensation. That's always been our advice. The bonus that people get is gravy. It's not guaranteed, and it's meant to kind of take you to the next level, not cover your basic commitments. So from a real estate standpoint, I actually think the next year or so is going to be very, very interesting and may present opportunities for both commercial and residential real estate investors and homeowners.
Rona, let me do a quick follow with you on that. The big banks and the Canada Mortgage Housing Corporation, which back mortgages, they now have been told that they have the opportunity to defer for 6 months mortgage payments. If you're in that bucket right now, should you avail yourself of that option?
Yeah, only take the deferral if it provides you with the financial flexibility that will prevent you from taking on consumer debt that's at a higher rate of interest. Anybody that's in the position to continue paying their debt should do so because it's going to cost them less over the life of the debt. But if somebody's offering you a lifeline, take advantage of it, but be smart with the savings, right? So if you get a break on your mortgage, but it means that you can continue to pay, to put food on the table and to cover your daycare costs and all of those other fixed expenses, then absolutely take them up on it. But for anybody else, I would suggest that you just carry on reducing your debt and investing the way that you always have.
Okay, we got a couple of minutes to go here, and I want to see if I can hit on one more thing, which is, Kathleen, there are a lot of people watching this right now, I suspect, who were either thinking about retiring or were about to retire and have literally seen the lifeline that they plan to retire with vanish before their eyes in the last 2 weeks. The market crash is going to change a lot of people's plans. What's your advice to them right now?
My advice is that I think a lot of people that are approaching retirement think of that date. That is their retirement date. But the investment is much longer term than that. You are not going to move all of your investing to cash the day that you retire. Your timeline is still 25, 30 years. We're hoping in the financial industry, we want you to live and we plan for your finances to last until 90 to 100 years old.
Well, as they say, from your lips to God's ears, that we all live that long. Hey, I want to thank both of you for coming on TVO tonight and helping us out with this. That's Kathleen Daunt, the financial planner with the New School of Finance, and Rona Birnbaum, who is a certified financial planner and the founder of Caring for Clients. Lots of good advice in there tonight, and we're grateful both of you could spare some time for us on TVO tonight.
My pleasure.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario. CPA Ontario is a regulator, an educator, a thought leader, and an advocate. We protect the public. We advance our profession. We guide our CPAs. We are CPA Ontario. And by viewers like you. Thank you.